Welcome to Cook's Tour, and today we are going to do a couple of meals out of one cooking. So I've got here a smoked gammon joint, otherwise known as ham. And the nice thing about this is not only do we get slices of gammon, we get ham sandwiches, and we can also have pea and ham soup all out of the same thing. I'm going to be cooking it in our thermal cooker, Mr. D, but you can use any large pot that keeps the heat and stays warm, has a lid on it. You can even wrap it up in a towel. The secret of this is very, very simple. It's a slow cook, minimum of about 3 hours. Once you get it going, you just leave it in there and you come back to it later. The ingredients for it are incredibly simple, and they are an onion, a clove of garlic, and some salt and pepper. All I'm going to do these is chop them fairly coarsely, like so. They don't have to be brilliant, because they're going to be soaking away in the pot for several hours. So what we're going to do now is get these in. This is all the chopping I do. Very coarse in the garlic, very coarse in the onion, and it's only half an onion because you just want a bit of flavour in there, and the salt and pepper will go in with it too. So I'm going to put all that into the thermal cooker and cover the ham completely with water, and then we're just going to leave it alone for 3 or 4 hours. That's the ham cooked. So I'm going to start off by putting some oil in. This had a bit of an accident, which is why it's the shape it is, but it doesn't leak oil, and it actually turns out to be a better grip than the way it came, so we've kept it. So about a tablespoon of oil, and we're just going to put the onions in. I don't know why, but I always find if I just boil onions they get a bit bitter. If I fry them first, it seems to take the bitterness out. I've got no idea why. Maybe it's just my imagination, but it's the way I do it. So gas on and cooker on. At least today the cooker's not rolling about, which is good. That can get a bit inconvenient sometimes. So in they go, no great science. And I will just wait for them to heat up and start cooking. And they'll heat up quicker if I put a lid on. So while that's getting on with it over there, I'm going to open this ham. There's not really any science to it. Some of these hams come with a plastic strip around them. Leave it on when you're cooking. It keeps the ham in a good shape, and it's meant to be in the pot. I mean, if it has that plastic strip, you can check on here. It'll probably say leave the plastic strip on while cooking. If it says take the plastic strip off and dispose of it, well, you know what to do. So I'm just being careful not to get that plastic inner that's on the joint. Let's get rid of that. And you can see it here. It's what gives it a slightly different colour. That's the plastic inner. And that just stays on while it's cooking. These are starting to cook, and as soon as they're a nice golden colour, this is going to go in and be covered with water, salt and pepper added, and then we leave it alone for 3 or 4 hours. Well, as you can see, these onions are starting to go a little bit transparent. That's fine as far as I'm concerned. So I'm going to put some sea salt in there, and I'm going to put some ground pepper in as well. And then in goes the ham. And in goes the water. Whoa, steamy action! Good grief, I had just enough water. So as you can see, it's completely covered. And now we're just going to bring this to the boil and leave it to be. Things are just coming to the boil in here, in this particular pot, and I want to talk about the Mr. D thermal cooker, which is what we're using, in case this is the first time on your channel and you have not come across this device before. Because we sail a lot, what we like to do is prepare our dinner, and then whenever we get to where we're going, we like to have a nice hot dinner ready, or one that just needs a slight warming up to get us going again. It's just so much nicer than doing a long day at sea and then having to cook for an hour or two. So we have this pot which goes in this giant thermos flask, and it stays warm as a result. It just cooks away in here for several hours. We could use a pressure cooker, but you have to stand over that. This is a sort of non-electric crock pot if you have one of those, or an electric slow cooker if you have one of those, but this is the non-electric version. And if you're interested in this, we do have a link down below in the description. It's an affiliate link, and if you buy one, you get the same price you would if you bought it anyway, but we get a bottle of wine for having told you. Hold that up. What I'm going to do now is let this boil for a little, just to get heat running through everything. It's going quite merrily in there. And then it goes in here for a bit, for about 3 hours minimum, hopefully a bit longer. And that's it. So what we can do now is we can put this away and we can go and have a look around Malahide and do whatever we're doing. If we were at sea, we'd get underway. This can be used later to make sandwiches, to make soups, or in today's case, to make dinner. So I'm going to let it cook for a while and I'll see you in a bit. Ham has been inside our Mr. D thermal cooker for about 5 hours now, so I'm going to take it out. And obviously it's wet, so I'm putting it on this paper to dry. Now we have some stock in here and we're going to keep that stock and we're going to use it tomorrow to make pea and ham soup because it's a good stock to make the soup with. It's got taken some of the flavours of this, got some of the flavours of the onions and garlic and the pepper and the salt. So it's got a nice, it would be a shame to waste it, let's put it like that. So I'm going to take the plastic off that is left on. There we go. Alright, so I'm just going to take a couple of thin slivers off this with a sharp knife. And you can see that we have these nice little slivers of ham, and I'm just going to obviously this can now just be sliced up to make sandwiches for things like ham sandwiches, and some of this will be sliced up for tonight's dinner into a thicker slice like a gammon slice or a ham slice, and then the rest of it I will cube tomorrow to make pea and ham soup. Okay, so it's the following day and we enjoyed our ham slices last night that we had, and we've got this lovely big chunk of gammon ham, whatever you want to call it, left over. And what we're going to do today is we're going to make the soup. Now you can do all sorts of things to make your own peas for the soup and things like that, but one of the simplest ways to do it, and what we do because we like simple, is we buy a tin of mushy peas. And this is a 300 gram tin, so we've got 600 grams here. I have kept 600 mils of stock, 600 millilitres of stock, so 600 peas, 600 stock. That's roughly a pint if you want to work in old measurements. And we're also going to put some of the ham in. We're going to cube it and put it in. Because we put in onions and garlic and pepper and salt into the stock yesterday, we don't need to add anything further to that. We've got what we need in there already. So now it's just a case of getting this, and we're also going to chop some of this very, very thinly to make ham sandwiches with. So it's going to be soup and a sandwich is what we're going to have for lunch. We can also have it for passage food when we're out at sea. As you can see, when it got too thin to carve, I just sliced it in half because it was bending in the middle, and I'm just continuing to carve this till it gets a bit too thin. I apologise for the noise outside. We are on a boat. The roof is just above my head and it is chucking it down outside, so it's just all part of the fun, I'm afraid. So what I've got now is, this is the bits of ham that are hard to slice, so I'm just going to cube them into smallish cubes or thin slices, whatever I can get. It's not really that important because it's going to be a soup. So I've got my cubed ham, I've got my sliced ham to make my sandwich with, I've got my mushy peas, and I've got my stock. It is now just a case of quite literally dumping everything in the pot and heating it up. So let's do that. So I'm not going to have any great ceremony about this. I'm just going to pop these tins open and put them in. It all has to be heated up anyway. That's already cooked. This is already cooked because it's in a tin. And we just have to put the ham in and we just let the whole thing bubble along. That's it. A little bit of water just to rinse it out. And this should make enough for 2 days. So we can have it today and we can have it while we're under passage at sea tomorrow. Now, like all soups, they all start out very, very thin, and a lot of soups people thicken them with flour. Obviously we're not going to do that because one of us is gluten intolerant, but we're going to use corn flour, or cornstarch if you're American, to thicken the soup. And we can add as much in to make the soup as runny or as thick as we like. If we want it really, really thick and brothy, we just add lots of corn flour. If we want it thinner and runnier, we add less corn flour. Or if we like it really thin and runny, we just don't add anything at all. It's up to you how much of this stuff you put in. You do not need a great deal amount of it. A heaped tablespoon is usually more than enough. But I'm going to let it get cooking first, because I find that when I add corn flour or cornstarch, it's best to add it when the stuff is bubbling hot. If you add it while it's thin like this, it doesn't really thicken properly. It likes to be in a hot liquid. Right, well, I've just been into Ship stores and I've got myself some corn flour, and I'm going to take a good heaped tablespoon of the stuff, and I'll mix that with a bit of water, and when this has come to a simmering boil, I'll mix it all in so that I get the thickness I want. So I'm just going to add some water to this and give it a stir to make it a nice paste. And this has just come to the boil a few seconds ago. And so I'm just going to add this until I get the thickness I want. It's all gone in. I tend to be more toward the brothy end of the soup than the thin end of the soup, I have to confess. But that's just my personal preference. So that will now be allowed to cook for at least half an hour more, just to let all the flavours come out. And then it will be lunchtime, if this rain ever stops. I have my formerly blue ladle at the ready. It's been used to serve too many curries, but it's time to serve up soup today. And we're doing our usual thing of having it in a large mug, and we have our sandwiches ready, so it's just a case of give it a quick stir and off we go. And there we go.
Oh, cheers. Cheers.
Oh, it's hot.
Well, today we're having soup and a sandwich just in the marina. The tide's going to be in our favour at 2 o'clock.
In about an hour's time.
In about an hour's time. So we're just having our lunch now. But we could equally have this under passage or anything like that. But we find it great food, especially as we did it for 2 days, didn't we, Bowley, out of the stock. So
And the peas have dissolved into the soup and thickened it even more.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.